Hey everyone, it's Tonya, and today I want to share with you a process video for making a card. And I'm using Marian Smith Designs paper. This is from her Nirvana collection, and I've been making some projects for her design team. And you know, these are some scraps, so as always, use up your scraps as soon as you're finished with the project. It makes it so much easier for you to control and manage those scraps. So what I've done here to prep for the card is I have a piece of scrap chipboard that I just mounted another piece of this paper that was scrap onto, and then die cut it in a primitive heart die cut, and that is the Sizzix primitive heart. And then I have a half doily that is die cut from a piece of scrap black cardstock. That this is an MFT oval doily. And then I just have a button, I have some twine, this is that black jute twine, and then this is my card. And I'm using a standard card size today of 5.5 by 4 1/4. So I have trimmed my paper down so that it is a 1/4 of an inch smaller than the actual cardstock, and I'm going to use my Prima Distress tool to distress the edges of this card, just to kind of give it a little more interest. And I love how this paper already has this beautiful black on there, so I'm going to kind of, build off of that black lacy look. So once you have all of your edges really distressed, really like the way that looks, then I'm going to move this out of the way because I don't need it for right now. I have a tag here that I want to color up to kind of be a little bit of a burgundy color to match my button. So I've pulled out some Glimmer Mist products, and I have the Tokyo Glimmer Mist. I'm going to start out by using it and just kind of spraying it around. It gives it that nice mahogany look. And I just have like a little sponge here on my desk that I'm going to use to work that mist in. And it's okay if it doesn't cover all the way to the edge, because you're going to add a couple of different layers. And because this might get seen from both sides, I'm going to go ahead and spritz both sides of the tag. Again, just work that color in. Love that. So rich and vibrant. Now I'm going to take the Glaze, this is Java. And if you don't have these products on hand, look through your stash and see what you have that's comparable. This is just a rich, it's kind of like a cross between a really dark black brown, like a really chocolate, deep chocolate. The Lindy Stamp Gang Chocolate Truffle would probably be a good color too. And I'm just going to kind of rub that in all the way around. And see how that just kind of helps to bring out some more richness into this. And again, I'm going to do it on both sides, working in a circular motion so that it's an even coating. I don't want any streaks or lines. Once that tag is covered from both sides, I'm going to come back in, and I have a stamp. Just use any stamp that you have. This is an old one that I've had for quite a while. It's called Love Letters, and it's made by, it doesn't say, Delta. It's made by Delta. And it just has a little flourishy type heart on it. You could use a damask, because there's a damask in this paper. You could also use a script if you don't have that. So just look through your stash and find something that's fun. You're not going to see a whole lot of it. It's just to give a little bit of a contrast on this tag. So I'm using archival ink for that. And I'm just going to stamp it a couple of times on this tag. Maybe do one more. Oops. You're not going to see it a lot. You just want enough to give it a little bit of color, if and interest. I'm going to clean up my work surface because I don't want this on my tag. Now I'm going to put this to the side and let it dry for just a minute, and then I may have to pull my heat tool out, but let's do some other stuff first. So now I'm going to take my doily and I want to stamp my sentiment on it, but I think what I want to do, since this is black, and I you know, chalkboards are so trendy right now, I really want this to have a kind of a chalkboardy look to it. So I'm going to pat it down with my little embossing buddy. Push some of that off. Then I've got my Tim Holtz Distress embossing ink, and my sentiment stamp is right here. And this is a Just For You. It was from the dollar bin several years ago, Studio G. And I'm just going to ink that up really well. And I with the design that I'm wanting to do, I'm going to put something on this side. So over here, I want to emboss my sentiment. So I'm going to put it maybe right in there. And I'm not going all the way to the top because I want to do something here across the top to kind of hide that harsh edge. Then I've got some white embossing powder. I'm just going to use a little piece of scratch paper that's here at my desk. And this is made by Sudoku. This is just some good white. Just make sure you tap off all those little extra pieces so they don't end up, oh, I popped some of it off of there. I am so stamping challenged, guys. If I can do it, anybody can do it. It's a little bit of a mess right there, and I don't want it to stamp. So I'm going to see if I can't get that off. I have a paintbrush right here. I'm just going to flick that off. Okay, put this to the side. I've got my heat tool, and I'm going to go ahead and heat this up. Use a paintbrush to hold it down if you need to. Now while that's cooling off, I'm going to just hit my tag really good, make sure it's good and dry. Okay. Now I'm going to cut some flags out. So I'm just going to cut straight across my tag here. And it doesn't matter if it's perfectly straight. Don't worry about that. And about halfway down the tag, I'm going to cut it again. And about, just eyeball it. I'm probably going to go in, you know, kind of wide on one and a little narrower on the other. And then just snip it. We're going to make little flags. We're going to do another one on this, and I'm going to probably make it just a little bit smaller. I want it just a little bit more narrow than this one. So once I have that, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm probably going to even these up just a little bit. I want to offset them when I lay them down, kind of like this, where they hang over each other, but they're not quite lined up perfectly. But this little bit right here is probably going to get in the way, so I'm going to snip it off. Now let's get ready to build our card. We have our card. Get all this extra stuff off of here because it will stick to this black. Okay. So now I'm going to take my base here and kind of figure out where I want it. I don't know that I want to glue it down just yet, and you want to make sure it's going in the right direction. So for me, I'm working upside down. Okay, so then I want to take this, and I think I want to take these two guys right here, and I want them down about right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on this one. And I'm not going to glue all the way to the bottom, because I want to take these edges right here and just kind of encourage them to bend up just a little bit. Just gives them a little bit of depth. It's not a lot, but it's a little detail. And then on this one, I think I want to add a little bit of a pop dot to it to raise it up just a little bit above the other one. And once again, I'm going to put a little curl right here on the edge of those tips. It's just a little dimension, little detail, adds quite a bit of depth. Come in maybe about right there with that one. Then on this one, I again want to add a little bit of a pop dot to that, and I'm going to kind of stay up towards the top up here so it doesn't interfere with my flags. Kind of pull up just a little bit, but I want to make sure I'm hiding the base of that banner. So there's that. Make sure it's centered, and I don't think I have mine centered. So before you put it down completely, make sure it's good and centered on your page. There we go. Don't worry about that, you're gonna hide it. Okay, so now I'm gonna take, and I have some black seam binding here that I've pulled out, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue straight across like this. And a trick, I don't want to go all the way around with my seam binding because that's a waste. You're not going to see it in the back anyway. So what I do is I come out just a little bit on this side, and I'm going to come out a little bit on this side and then trim that up. And then I'm going to take and put just a little bit of tape right here and pull this around like that. Oh, my card slid. Hold on. We didn't get it centered. This doesn't happen to anybody else in the universe, right? Only me. This guy slid just a little bit. Pull it down to right there. There we go. Now I'll put this back. Okay, now we have that. Now it's time for our heart. And I want my heart to have a little bit of depth through here, so I'm just going to take that sponge that I used with my, oh, don't get it on your paper here. This sponge that already has that little bit of ink on it from before, and it's not going to show up a lot, but you will see it a little bit in person. I don't know if the video camera's picking it up or not, but I can see just a little bit of a shadow. And if you don't, you can always grab, I'm going to just grab a little bit of vintage photo on this sponge just to see if I can get just a little depth. There we go. I don't want a lot of color. I just want it to not be so stark and just pristine. There we go. I'm really liking that. Alright, now I'm going to take my twine, and I'm going to tape a little bit of twine right here to the back. And I'm just going to use, probably just my ATG is good enough. Just put a little bit of tape there just to hold the twine in place. And I'm going to wrap it 2 or 3 times around here, kind of crisscrossing up and down, and kind of give it, you know, a couple of different little turns. And when I come back around here, I should be able to just snip this extra piece off right here. And then I like to cheat a little bit. I have some tape here on my desk, and I'm just going to tape that twine in place so it doesn't move. It's good and tight. I've got it pulled really tight. You're not going to see that anyway. So now my heart is going to go right here on my card, just like that. And notice how you have a little bit of depth because of this doily. There's a little bit of depth here because we used a pop dot. So I want to put a pop dot on my heart, but I only want to put it around the top of that heart. So I'm going to just put a little bit of ATG right here at the bottom. I don't know why my ATG gun doesn't want to roll right. I think I just need to adjust the tension on it. Let's see. And then I'm going to take these little pop dots and put just a little bit at the top of my heart here. Whoops. And here. And then I'm going to come, I want it to kind of stick up a little bit, but kind of point down towards those flags a little bit. Just like that. Okay. Now I want to add a button, and the button I'm going to kind of put it off center a little bit, like right in here. And I think I want to do it with, I'm going to see if the seam binding might be a little bit too much. I don't know if it is or it isn't. We'll try. But I'm just going to take, for my seam binding, I'm going to roll, just do a little loop. And then I'm going to do another little loop, just like you're tying your shoe. Then I'm going to pinch it in the center, and I just have a little piece of floral wire here on my desk, and I'm going to put that floral wire right in the center and pull it around, and that's going to give me the perfect bow. Make sure that that wire is centered. Pull your tail or your loops back towards each other like this, and then just clamp it right here in the center. And notice we haven't put our button down yet, because I can take, let me cut that off, cut the tail off. Now I can take this wire and use it to thread through my button to hold my bow in place. So I'm going to just take this wire, work it into my button. And the button might not be big enough, but for the purposes of this tutorial it'll be fine. It just gives a little depth. Twist it in a knot back here on the back, and then trim off the edges with some wire cutters. And then I just fold it down. And there's our little bow and our little button. And I'm going to put it a little off center, maybe more towards this side. And I'll trim up those, I think I'm going to trim those up. I'll just put it on this side. So I'm going to put just a spot of hot glue behind my button. You could use a glue dot. Kind of put it up a little high, just like that. I'll let it sit for a second. And then trim up my edges. My bow. Okay, now I'm going to put my bow on, or put my card base on. Put it right here. Make sure it's good and centered. There we go, super simple. And then because this is a black card and you want to be able to write on the inside of it, I just have another piece of that scrap paper, same pattern that's on the front. Again, I'm just going to distress it up just a little bit to give it a little texture on the inside too. Doesn't have to be a lot, just rough up the edges. Make sure your text, if there's any text on it, that it's going in the right direction. And there you go, there's our card. Super simple. Now, just to give you an idea, you know, I use the same exact principle on a different set of papers, and it's the same card but a different look. So there you go, two different cards same style, just using up a different set of scraps. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and please leave me comments.